Oshawott saying. I love Snivy saying.
Pick Oshawa and call it a damn day.
But Vivian, like, you gotta take into consideration, like, how they are feeling. Okay, I'll take this one, Sharon. That one is yours. I thought Bianca automatically chose. They should give this man a chance.
Oh my god.
Like, you're not gonna get the chance.
You're not gonna let you get the chance.
How come you get to pick out my Pokemon? Oh, never mind. I want to Snivy from the start, anyways.
Bianca's a hoe.
Everyone has chosen Pokemon, so that's that. Hey, I know. Let's have a Pokemon battle. Honestly, Bianca, even though there's still weak Pokemon, you shouldn't have battles inside a house. Don't be already worked. These little ones are weak, like you said. You have to let them battle so they'll get stronger. It's settled, Eevee. Get ready for the Pokemon battle. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, Pokemon Black has a different music to the soundtrack, to the battle.
I'm not playing both, but like... Okay, I want to say I'm playing both. I'm alternating like days.
Alternating days?
Like, I'll play Pokemon Black and White today, and I'll play XD tomorrow.
Are you streaming right now?
Yes, I'm streaming. Even though it's ghetto. I don't know how to fucking make a Pokemon game. I mean, a Pokemon DS game would not look ghetto later. Let me figure out one day.
Well, I'm gonna take some time to level up my Oshawott. You do you, Chief.
You do you, Chief.
Did I tell you what I did my first very Pokemon with my name?
What you do?
So, okay, so my first very Pokemon game, right? So I made my starter my HM slave and my HM and TM slave, and he's like level 100. Like, he was one-shotting the league before. It was actually beautiful. No, but Oshawatt's gonna die. Wait, why is Timpic so fast? Bro, I almost lost my first battle.
Okay. Terrifying. Now I can actually play the game now. What'd you say, Wesley?
Wesley Snipes or Wesley Pipes?
Shut up. Wait, did you beat Charon? You beat Charon already?
Yeah, I just beat Charon.
Oh my god.
They destroyed my room. I'm gonna beat this bitch's ass.
Hey yo, they're gonna call.
Do you see the room? Do you see my room?
They're gonna call child services.
We're the same age. It's all good. Yune, you're gonna be an awesome Pokemon trainer someday. I can tell, no doubt. Bianca, when you take a look around, I want to murder her. Whoa, what happened? I gotta establish different voices for different characters, but that's a lot of work.
I can't change it yet, Wesley. I have to like.
So little, but so strong.
I have to wait for them to shut up.
Told me. What? You didn't hear what I said, did you?
I was reading the chat.
Good. You didn't hear what I said.
What'd you say? What'd you say? What'd you say? What'd you say?
You're completely hopeless. Here, I'll restore your Pokemon for you. Wait, Charon can heal?
Yeah?
Yeah, he just healed my Pokemon.
Yes, he can. Ted Pig's gonna eat my. We already know which this Eevee's gonna be.
Snivy! I'm so glad I chose Snivy. Snivy!
Why did you pick Oshawott?
Oshawott! I don't know. I love Gen 5. This is Gen 5, right?
I randomized. I wanted to make sure I had the full experience with Eevee, so I changed the starter to Eevee.
This is Gen 5, right?
Yes, it's Gen 5. You're still in the battle?
I'm battling Sharon.
I thought you said you beat Sharon.
I said no, I beat Bianca. I beat.
Oh. I just beat Sharon. Okay, trying to change the options. I need some borders. Like I need to make a border.
You built like a border. What?
I know you're not talking. You built like a fucking wagon.
I got that caboose.
You got that caboose. I don't think we're doing a race. Wait, Mel, do you want to do a race?
I mean, I just read like the whole first line, so I'm already at a disadvantage.
And we're still like the same, you know.
I mean, we can do a race. It doesn't matter to me.
Let's do a race.
Fine, I'm not reading any more of this shit then.
No! Okay, fine, let's not do a race. I want you to read it. Never mind.
Bianca, oh, I already skipped like 2 lines, so this is like the line I haven't skipped yet. Bianca, oh, I better come to. Bro, this girl messed up my room. If only. Never mind. I'm not gonna say that.
Would you say? What would you say? Yo, the stream is.
I'm very
Leslie, how'd you get my freaking emote? Oh my god.
Well, we can clean up.
Oh yeah, it's the freaking points.
Cleaning up. No worries, I'll take care of it later. Shouldn't you be on your way to meet Professor Juniper? Sharon. Yes, thank you. Please excuse us.
This is a horrible
nature. Come on,
nature.
let's go. Let's go. Thank you, Professor Juniper. Whatever. I'll be waiting in front of the Pokemon Lab research. Pokemon Research Lab. Bianca, oh wait, I've got to go home first. Thank you for having us over, miss.
That's a horrible nature for. I mean, yeah, for an SB. Fucking jolly. I low-key want to restart this damn. But I'm not going to. Fuck up my.
No. My, Muni. Pokemon battles are so lively, aren't they? I could hear the Pokemon cries clearly down here. That sure reminds me of my first Pokemon battle. And you know, after a battle, you need to rest your Pokemon, right? Thank you, Mother, for resting my Pokemon. I love you. God. Where's my dad, though? Your Pokemon is looking great. Now, if you're going out, don't forget your cross transceiver. What is a cross transceiver?
The cross transceiver is the I don't even know what the fuck it is. I know the
equivalent. I guess it's like the equivalent of the watch to Pokemon Diamond.
I guess.
You need to put the key on him too. You're going to thank the professor, right? Better get going, honey. I want to see my dad when I get back, Mom.
Yeah, your dad ain't gonna be there. He went to get some milk, okay? He's gonna be back soon.
Just like the one.
Exactly. He's gonna be back soon, okay? Don't worry.
That's why people think Ash is black, you know? That's exactly why. I'm sorry, but could you go to Bianca's house? I bet she's spacing out like she's totally like.
I thought she said flirty. I was like,
What the fuck is Bianca going?
Can we run yet? No, we can't. What a whore. He's like 10.
Really?
I think so.
Whore.
Okay.
She messed up my room and then she disappeared.
That's fucked up.
She basically hit and ran.
Do you know where to go? Do you know where to go?
I'm looking.
Because I'm already at the house.
Is it the one on the bottom left?
Yeah, bottom left.
I thought so. I went to the one on the bottom right. Actually, I visited all 3 houses already.
All 3 houses?
The other 2.
Fire Emblem 3 houses.
No, 1,000 times no. Bianca, but I'm a good trainer who got a Pokemon and everything. I can totally go on an adventure. I hate being dragged into shit.
Not like your character ever talks.
It's fine. I'll be waiting for you in front of the lab, okay? I swear, her dad started talking to me. I'm going to my shit.
Your dad gonna start punching on you.
I'm only 10. That's child protective services all the way.
You said equal rights, equal fights, right?
yeah. All right. Let's go meet the professor. Wait. Equal rights. Wait. I'm 10. I'm 10. Wait a second.
Exactly. You did say equal rights, equal fights, so.
I never said that. I don't recall saying that. I mean, hi there. I've been waiting for you young people. Let me introduce myself again. My name is Sharon, Professor Jennifer. We know your name. Come on, Sharon. This is not a time to take things lightly. Today is a day to remember always. So it's best to behave with some formality. That being so, once again, my name is Professor Jennifer, and I am researching when and how the creatures called Pokemon came into existence.
How many times you gonna say her name? You got it the
Every
first
time
3
she
times.
speaks, I say her name. All right. Every time she speaks, I have to say her name.
That's ridiculous.
Oh, that's unusual. You've already had a Pokemon battle, so maybe that's why it feels as though your Pokemon have already begun to trust you. By the way, would you like to give your Pokemon a nickname?
Smell. Kidding.
Asha. Aho. I cracked my jaw saying Ashwat. Baby, I'm in pain.
What name I thought you had a Snivy.
I have an Ashwat. Asha. I'm gonna name my Ashwat Asha. I'm gonna name it Asha.
That's
I'm gonna name
actually
it Asha. OSHA. Asha.
I'm just naming my Eevee Espeon. Don't mind
I'm gonna name it Asha.
Espeon's too perfect of a name.
Asha. What? Asha. Oh, I see. Are you okay with the nickname Asha? No. I gotta rechange his name.
Where you gonna rechange the name to? Asha?
Asha.
Is it even a boy or girl?
It was in all caps. It's a boy. But it worked out. If it was a girl, I would name it Asha.
A shit.
Asha.
Oh shit. You should have named it Oh shit.
No! Do not disrespect Asha.
Oh shit, a rat.
Asha. Asha is its name. That's such a great name. I know. I picked it out. As for why I gave all of you Pokemon.
You know they say that about every name, right?
Hmm?
You know they say that about every name.
Shut the fuck up, dude. Pokédex. I am astonished. Nice work, Sharon. You have already studied Pokemon extensively, haven't you? So let me explain everything from the beginning, for everyone's sake. Like, oh my god, the Pokédex is a high-tech device that automatically records the Pokemon you encounter. So I want you three to visit many places and meet all the Pokemon in the Unova region. This is my request. Mune, Sharon, Bianca, you will go on an adventure to complete the Pokédex, will you not? Yes. What if I click no? Bianca, okay.
Did you say no?
I click no. I'm kidding. I didn't click no. I mean, yes, Professor. Sharon, thank you. Thank you very much. Because of you, I can become a Pokemon trainer. Exactly as I've always wished.
Damn, why with all that bass?
You have given me the best answer possible. I have received the Pokédex. Beauty obtained the Pokédex. Next, I need to teach you how to meet Pokemon. Please.
Where did the name Mune come
from?
from?
Okay? It's Mel, but it's like not the American version of Mel.
Then what is your name? Like, what's the origin?
Japan.
Your name's Japanese.
I think my game froze.
It froze?
I think it froze.
You gotta be fucking joking.
I think my game froze.
You gotta be fucking. Did you save anywhere?
I'm about to cry, baby.
Did you? Oh my god, you was having so much fun and it just fucking froze. Did it actually freeze though? Damn, we can
It's
never.
not moving.
Damn, we can never have nice things, can?
Are you dead ass? Are you frozen? Are you actually frozen? It's just so fucking.
It's so dumb.
Alright, then. You continue your journey. I'm gonna catch up. I'm gonna switch DSs too. Yeah, I'm gonna switch DSs.
Well, that's
Very unfortunate. I switched DSs, so it should be okay now.
So you did not save at all?
Apparently I did not save. I'm gonna go cry now.
That means you have to go through the whole intro. You got to name the after what.
I'm about to skip all this shit. I'm about to read this shit.
Who's having so much fun?
Just ruined my. I'll be honest with you.
I'm so very long.
What the fuck is going on with this DS?
I wouldn't be surprised if my emulator started crashing.
Weird. Look for the DSs.
What's wrong with them?
What the fuck? I'll show you something.
The frames, I'm like. You send it?
Look at this.
Who is it at though?
No, it's not.
On Snap?
You know what's funny, Vivian? I have the original DS. I feel low-key playing on the original.
If you feel like the original DS
became the voice of reggae because.
Oh, no, it's not worth. Because like I broke the screen on that DS.
So are they not working? What's wrong with them?
It finally turned on. After a while.
In fact, do you know that will ruin the fun for everyone?
It's just the game's not loading.
Worked in a liquor store.
Okay.
I'm switching
The same
cartridges.
25 or so people would come in every day and buy a pint of fifth of vodka. Every day. I would point out to them it is much cheaper over the long run just to buy a gallon. They would mostly shrug and buy their pint or fifth. I realized that they were high-functional alcoholics who, knowing they would drink every drop available, just hoped they could consume daily and remain semi-functional. When or if they moved up in bottle size, you could see the effects in their dress and speech. Many were professionals. Dogs love squeaky toys because it's from their weird instinct of almost dead prey still whimpering. I read about something similar where cats do a lot of similar things like claw at their toys with their hind legs because it's an instinct they still have to disembowel their prey.
I think
the folds in your radio are completely unique, similar to fingerprints. Can you unlock your phone with it? Every year on the anniversary of its arrival, the Mars rover sings happy birthday to itself, millions of miles from anyone. Right now, someone is starving to death. They will die by the time you finish work today. You can be healthy, exercise, live right and still drop dead unexpectedly. I had a friend in high school who had this happen.
That sounds really depressing.
The guy
it really does.
I did not need to hear that. I did not need to
nasty healthy stuff like it. He didn't do drugs, smoke or drink alcohol. Healthiest person you can imagine. He went for a routine run one morning and just collapsed. Most people will eventually get hemorrhoids. This 80-year-old guy who always comes out to karaoke told me last week.
You blowing on the cartridge?
The mussels and red sauce because My a-hole looks like a
Oh,
ship's
yeah,
hull.
I've switched the cartridge. I have like 3
Earwigs
games,
can
so I was
fly
seeing
and
which
have
ones are like.
characteristic Cersei, a pair of forceps
Weird.
How about you
pincers
try
on their
Pokemon White?
abdomens, and membranous wings folded
Oh, that's what I'm
underneath
doing.
their
I've been playing
forelegs.
Pokemon.
Oh.
Earwigs rarely use
Oh yeah,
their
I meant
flying
Black.
ability. In the movie Triple X,
Alright, so
the
I'm gonna
part
play
where
2
the main
games at
character
once.
slides down
Let's see
a
which
line
ever
from a
crashes
parachute to a
first.
boat. You are literally watching a man
Exactly.
die. The
That's
stuntman who slid down
actually
the line did not
interesting.
make it to that bridge. He slammed into it at full speed. I learned this while
Alright, so I
watching
have
the
2 clear
director's
games of
commentary on the
Pokemon
DVD.
White.
They used the footage still because,
So I'm gonna play 2 at
according
once.
to the
That's
commentary,
exactly what
that's how dedicated we are to entertaining you.
And
The
the
search and
beginning of
rescue
this game is
dogs
so
on September
slow.
11th were literally
I
becoming
know.
depressed because they only found dead bodies. Their handlers started taking turns burying themselves in the rubble so the dogs could actually rescue someone. Toddlers don't have kneecaps until they're around 3 to 5 years old. It doesn't really ruin the fun for everyone. I just like to see the look on the parents' faces when I tell them their toddler doesn't have kneecaps. Actually, the cartilage simply hasn't hardened yet. Then, I watch in sheer delight
Mel
as
has
they
no
sprint over
kneecaps.
to their child and feel their toddler's non-existent kneecaps.
Oh, the
and
X
wonder what's
transceiver
genetically
is
wrong
their phone thing.
You were born too late to explore the Earth and too early to really explore space. That no matter what you do in this life, all of us are going to eventually die and the majority of us will be completely forgotten to the world. Once I accepted this, I was really able to exhale a bit and not take life so seriously. Up to the early 17th century, people had great fun with cat bonfires, as well as a game where a cat is put in a barrel hanging from a tree, which is beaten with bats like a piñata. You can guess what happens when the cat falls out. Very exciting, as cats are fast and agile. Men, women, and children used to attend entertainment events that consisted of seeing how many dogs had to be set on a chained bear to overwhelm it.
The fuck?
For young people who are obsessed with the superior audio quality of records, unless the audio was originally recorded on analog, the quality of the recording will be identical to what you'd hear on a CD or your computer. In other words, you're wasting your money buying vinyl for albums that were originally recorded on digital. Your Foster the People record is a sham. The above average effect. If asked whether they're above average, the majority of individuals
Okay, I
will
realized
reply
why
they
it
are,
crashed.
which is a
Why they
statistical
crash?
impossibility and probability.
So, on the
Realistically,
new
you're as
3DS,
average as anyone else in the room.
like, it has a hard time reading the DS game for
Some,
some reason.
if not all,
Uh-huh.
of the crew of the Shuttle Challenger were alive and awake during their minutes.
So I'm
long
only
free
playing
fall
one
into
copy
the
of Light,
Atlantic following the breakup of the
even though I
shuttle.
have 2. Which is really weird.
The voice actress
Yeah.
for Ducky in The Land Before Time
Apparently
was
it's having
killed
really
by her
hard
father
trouble
at
reading
age
it
10.
for some reason.
He then killed her mother, spent 2 days
So,
walking around the
yeah,
house,
that's-
then set
I
the
guess
house
that's why I
aflame and
crashed.
shot himself. That movie
Yeah.
came on TV a while back and I just couldn't
Come on,
watch it.
oh, I'm supposed to pick up.
Memory errors.
I actually
You
don't know
forget
who I
most
want
of
for
what
my
you learn
team.
or experience. Most of what you remember is corrupted.
But I have a good idea
Every
who.
time you recall something, you were lucky enough to
Exactly.
remember, you corrupt it more.
I definitely
Also,
want to
remember
Sandile.
I heard that
for the
before.
last time
Also, we
that
can't have the
before.
same
you
Pokemon.
won't even remember remembering it.
Wait a fucking minute.
We can't have the same Pokemon.
Wait a fucking minute.
We have to call our
Wait a fucking
Pokemon beforehand. So I want Sandile.
Since the last one.
You about to make me pull up the whole Pokédex.
They don't normally
You're
do
playing
much.
with
No, 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 no. We should have done that before the stream.
Communication
We should have.
infrastructure.
Okay.
What does that mean for you? It means that you wouldn't be able to access the internet. Apparently, Bob Marley and Tuff Gong were really aggressive towards other ska and reggae bands when he was a young thug in Jamaica. They would go to radio stations throughout the island and destroy other bands' 45s and threaten the DJs to play his records.
Does that include legendaries?
The reason he became the voice
We have
of
different
reggae was because
legendaries.
he intimidated and threatened his way to the top, stepping on other.
You know how you have
along the way.
Zekrom
The
and I have
destruction of single
Reshiram?
pressing albums alone was a huge loss to the ska and reggae music scene.
I want some
His whole
potion.
One Love persona was an affectation after he'd achieved worldwide success and admiration.
Well, I
He
claim
was
Semi
actually
Sage.
quite an a-hole.
Go
When
ahead.
it comes to this, it
No
really
skin
bothers
off
a lot
my
of people
nose.
who hold him up as some sort of musical messiah.
I call
There's about 5
Blitzel.
large corporations that control around 90% of the media we see. No matter how much you want to admit it,
I
pretty much everything you
claim.
read has some kind of agenda to push, no matter how small and insignificant it may be.
That
Almost
doesn't.
everything you own has a part, component,
Go
or
ahead.
entire fabrication linked to human slavery in the modern era. Raw materials, mined or farmed by slaves. Garments, sewn by slaves. Food, picked, shipped,
I call
packed or prepared by
Darumaka.
slaves, etc.
Wait a
Human
second.
trafficking is larger and more profitable today
I'm
than in
restarting.
any other era in human history. That one man's decision in the
Shit.
80s, more likely than
What?
not, is the reason you're not dead. Petrov prevented a nuclear war between the Soviets.
How's that
She
bullshit?
landed a critical. She landed a critical.
Nuclear war
You lost?
in 1983,
Yeah, she landed a critical.
How'd you lose the first battle?
She landed a fucking critical. She did 2 tail whips and landed a critical.
The tradition of
Oh my
diamond
God.
engagement and wedding rings
I
was
claim,
invented by the De Beers diamond monopoly to sell more diamonds. Furthermore, the price of diamonds is kept artificially high. Diamonds would be fairly inexpensive if not for a centuries-old global cartel that carefully controls the supply and perceived desirability of them.
Screw all that.
Humanity produces enough food right now for everyone to have 2,700 kilocalories per person per day.
Oh, okay. I know. Okay.
Get along.
I claim Lilligan.
Or any kind of processed meat for that matter is basically.
Actually, I don't have Lilligan. Never mind. Actually, yeah, I could trade it for Lilligan. A Whimsicott,
etc. This is one way to use every part of the animal. Source: my dad's a pig farmer.
Did you say you claim crocodile?
Out of a group of 10 friends.
Sandow, yes, I claimed them.
Before the age of 40.
I claim Darumaka.
I said Darumaka.
Did you already say that?
Yeah, I said.
Okay, I claim.
But you have him. I'll let you have him.
Get away with it. One
Oh,
of the guys once tied a girl to a hotel room bed and just left her there for days. I love their music, but I just can't like them the same after learning this.
Bro, she landed a fucking critical.
You can live a good life, be nice to everyone, and still have a random act of violence almost kill you. A friend of mine was at home on a Sunday afternoon. Someone rung his door.
Why did you choose the most depressing? I would rather you listen to the stories of the.
He managed to shut the door against the assailant, dragged himself to the phone in his front hall.
Look, it's a playlist. I don't choose it.
He lost all movement in his right arm. The shooter was later found and arrested.
Because it's mostly background.
He had no reason to shoot my friend. It was a case of mistaken identity and location. He had meant to go to a different house. Balloons are actually really terrible for the environment and kill tons of wildlife. Dolphins, whales, turtles.
Why are Pokemon games start so slow? That's why I like the emulators, because you can put it on 2 times speed.
Dogs.
The only reason I'm not doing it because I'm actually streaming it.
And other animals have all been hurt or killed by balloons.
Like people will like to read it.
It's me. Leaving them unable to take in any more nutrients. It slowly starves to death. The animals can also become entangled in the balloon and its ribbon, making the animal unable to move or eat. There is something called depressive realism, in which we think people suffering from depression actually see the world for how it truly is. The rest of us are living in a too happy state, ignoring the actual world. You could have a prion in your brain right now, slowly folding copies of itself.
You even know what that is. You even know what that is.
Yeah, I have it.
There's no known method
a prion?
Diseases.
Oh.
The first 1/16 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch of a pool's water is actually sweat. Skin or
bro, if she lands another critical, I'm draining all my DS in the toilet.
Creating what is known as a chloramine.
I'm flushing them.
Why?
I'm flushing all of them.
Why?
Maybe did I show you the pack of
This is only when the
did I
water
show you
is
the
holding
pack of
still. For example, during a break.
Let me just show you.
Did it crash again?
Said solution is
no, it didn't crash again.
Okay.
On a long enough
I quit
time
because
scale,
she landed a
everything
critical.
we could possibly do.
I'm not accepting that L.
Wait, so she got another critical?
No.
Oh.
After she landed the first critical, I quit.
Only 8% of cardiac
I'm not taking no L's for
survive
bugging
even
the
with
outcome.
CPR. Of those 8%,
But you lost.
only like 10% do
Shut
not
up.
have some
It
type of
didn't
injury.
count.
You lost.
All those shows
It
and
didn't
movies
count.
where they perform CPR and the person pops up and is alive is pretty much unrealistic. When a heart stops, the person is going to die or live a pretty difficult life. If you have a roof over your head, and AC or window unit to keep your place cool, a fridge to keep your food cool, and a vehicle to travel around, and you are in the top 25% richest people in the world. Getting pregnant does not mean you get to skip your period for 9 months. See, after you have the baby all that extra stuff has to come out. Case 6 weeks of a bloody clotty mess while you still have stitches, are too scared to poop and only pads.
Damn, you have DS, hella DS, you have like every DS Pokemon game ever.
20-year-old females outside the office
She went
all
the
day,
fucking
the pure
critical.
shock on their faces.
Oh, she gonna
made
win.
up for a bad day.
I think.
Women commit 70% of non-reciprocal domestic violence and 50% of
You
reciprocal
fucking
domestic violence.
I'm gonna win.
They get hurt more
I'm
often
faster.
because men are stronger, plus they kill their children more than men do.
Hmm.
Runner-up for child abuse? Mommy's new boyfriend. It's called the Cinderella effect. A typical pop hit can cost more than $1 million to promote, which includes pay-for-click marketing and other shady tactics designed to game the sales and the ratings numbers. That's with many types of food. I've seen it for chocolate and peanut butter as well. That they have a limit for numbers
Yo,
of
can we get
insect
some
bombs,
fucking running
but
shoes?
still
Oh
it is
my
considered
god.
sanitary. Any food commodity derived from seed or spice that isn't highly refined, like soybean oil or cornstarch, is going to contain tiny insect parts. There's literally no way around it. Chocolate grows outdoors, peanuts grow outdoors. There are insects outdoors. Some insects ride along with the beans or kernels or whatever, and they get ground up when the commodity gets milled. The processor has a responsibility to eliminate as many insects as possible, but it's impossible to get 100% of them. The same thing applies to any spice in your cabinets at home. Pepper, cumin, oregano, paprika, etc. Those all contain a tiny amount of insect parts and animal hairs.
Finally.
Basically all modern dog breeds are inbred mutants that humans have created for novelty, and many suffer horrible conditions with their limbs or breathing as a result.
Like a pug.
Many cannot even reproduce without human help. But hey, at least they look cool. Mutts are actually very good for the dog population as the species is trying to get back to normal. Many things that are generally known as Christmas traditions are actually stolen from pagan rituals for the winter solstice. Christmas trees and decorations from evergreens, lights, reindeer, magical man in red clothing, holly and mistletoe, even the date that we celebrate Christmas on. Tell that to the next person who complains about the war on Christmas. Thanks for having this day ruined by Radio TTS. Hit the subscribe button and activate the bell for more mood enhancers. Click the right box for the Reddit Facts playlist. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Bye.
You just said bye.
I just whooped the brakes off chair.
It was legal to mail children in packages via the USPS from 1913 to 1920. What are some not fun facts? Depressing summary at the end of the video. If you show symptoms of rabies, your chances of dying are nearly 100%. Like pancreatic cancer.
It was something
if you're showing
more
symptoms,
wholesome.
You're almost definitely already dead. There was an NPR report about a doctor who put a young girl with the rabies virus into a medical...
Okay.
This guy was largely harmless and was likely going to spend at least some serious time in jail. Lawyers, what is the most morally challenging case that you've worked on? During my days of insurance defense, I spent one lovely afternoon bickering with counsel for a co-defendant over who would be responsible for paying the $5,000 that was keeping us from settling. We did this while on site at the plaintiff's home for a deposition. Plaintiff was hit by a semi-truck. The truck hit his actual body, on the interstate, and while it managed not to kill him, it tore off an arm and a leg, and shattered most of everything else. He was almost entirely immobile, confined to a power chair that he could barely operate, and confided to us that if he had function in his remaining hand, he'd shoot himself. Oh, the $5,000? It was based on an estimate to renovate his bathroom so that he could actually use it. He'd been peeing and pooping in a bedpan in the living room. I felt like a complete butthole sitting in front of him and arguing about such an insignificant sum. Family law attorney here. I've done plenty of divorces and custody dispute cases, that most stuff doesn't get to me. It's only when the kids are put in a bad situation between one or both of the parents being some type of addicts that really gets to me. One that was especially hard for me was a divorce where I represented dad. Mom was a raging alcoholic that would bring random guys home many nights from the bar while the dad was working. I saw videos and heard phone calls from their little boy calling the dad at work at like 2 a.m. because he was tired.
How far are you?
But couldn't go to sleep because mom was playing loud music and had friends over,
Right before
still
they...
partying. I was on the right side of that one, but seeing and hearing that stuff with the little boy really got to me. Not me, but a friend who studied law. They helped on a case where the father had shot and killed the mother of his children. The reason why he had shot her was because he was working abroad to earn as much money as he possibly could for his
Make
kids,
sure you
so that they
say
would
it.
never have the life he did as a child. He came back to find that she'd spent all the money on drugs and his kids were being abused. I worked on a merger between two large companies that resulted in essentially a monopoly that continues to screw over consumers, including me whenever I use their services, which most consumers are forced to. I represented a mom in a custody case. Both parents fighting for primary. Mom was admittedly a mess and suffering from some mental health issues. Dad took the kid and didn't bring them back for a few months in violation of the order. I got the kid back. Then met with mom and kid and realized kid was doing way better with dad and should be with him. Tried to reason with mom, She didn't listen. Ultimately, the Child Protection Office got involved and child was placed with dad. I last saw mom many years ago and she was still not in a super healthy place and child was still with dad. So best ending happened and not because of me. I've only worked as a legal intern, not a lawyer, and I cannot speak in specifics for obvious reasons, but I've dealt with about 8 child assault cases at this point. I helped prosecute most of those, but played a role in the defense on a couple. I can tell you, either which way you're working the case, it's tough. Nothing is more terrifying than reading a young victim's description of being abused at the hands of a trusted family member. Had a case where a guy shot and killed a security guard and slapped him across the face for selling drugs near a store. I knew the guy had done it. It was close to midnight, the crime scene had poor lighting and the shooter wore a hoodie. Only eyewitness that showed up for the trial had told the police at the time of the crime that the suspect was black. The defendant wasn't Caucasian but wasn't black either. That, in my opinion, was the argument that won the jury over. Defendant found not guilty. He thanks me while in tears. His mother and grandmother bring me cake and a thank you note afterwards.
I'm some fucking cake.
Less than a year later, I'm watching the news and they're reporting a crime where a crew held up 3 families hostage while robbing their apartments. They beat up the janitor very bad. They tied the families up and locked them in one of the apartment's bathroom while threatening to throw a grenade inside if any of them decided to wisen up. For a brief second, one of the robbers looks right into an elevator camera before spray painting it. Close up on the guy's face. I think you can imagine whose face I was looking at. Fresh after law school, I worked on a case where the people involved were sketchy in every possible way. My role was very limited, I was just helping with some securities filings. The problem was that nothing quite added up, and when I brought the discrepancies
Wait a
over to
damn
my
minute.
boss, she just told me to put the information in anyway. She was very friendly with the client, we saw him at our office all the time, as he'd often just drop by to chat and hang. Years later, the company folded, in a manner of speaking, and their clients, many of whom were quite vulnerable, lost hundreds of millions of dollars. I was not at all surprised. My boss was someone whom I had dreamed of reporting for years, for that and other sketchiness, but she was slippery enough never to do anything wrong that didn't carry some level of plausible deniability. Additionally, I'd always felt like I had zero idea of what I was doing as a student and then first-year associate there. Further still, I felt powerless against someone who had built herself quite a reputation within the legal community here, and who had been known to act vindictively toward anyone who crossed her in the past. In any case, I do think about that old file often. It's not the only one we worked on at that old firm that eventually blew up in a bad way. It's also really not great to feel like you may have helped legitimize an entirely, and to me, obviously, fraudulent operation. My experience there definitely jaded me quite a bit, even compared to other junior lawyers. A close relative was a judge in a pretty small town in the 80s. There was a case, drug deal gone bad. I guess one guy went to his dealer's trailer. Guy planned to rob dealer, not only take his drugs but his money as well. Dealer picked up on that plan quickly and pulled out a gun. First guy pulled out his gun as well. Both died, suicide by stupidity, really.
Suicide by
The
two.
families ended up suing each other for wrongful death. Relatives spent a couple of days going over the law before they arrived in court. Each wanting to get rid of
Wesley,
the other
I
for
get
money.
text messages, I
Relative,
know.
while on the bench no less, said something to the effect of they both did society a favor by removing themselves from our society. Early 80s, not a chance for that statement to go viral the way it would now, but you can bet the week following the letters to the editor in the local paper blew up. I only include this because the prosecutor was laughing so hard he had to excuse himself from the room when the judge made the comment. Not me, but my brother is a criminal defense attorney. He worked as a contracted public defender for a few years after starting his own business to get some guaranteed income while building his client base. The catch with these contracts
Mel, did it
is you're not
crash?
able to refuse clients.
No.
He had to defend a guy that had repeatedly
Good.
did the unspeakable to his toddler daughter while the mom watched.
I think it was a bad
When I asked
idea
him about how
starting
he got
with
through it, he
Eevee
said,
as a
"When I
starter,
get to a point where the crime is
because
so heinous that I can't empathize with
I'm trying to
client,
get
I search
Espeon
my
to learn
phone for
Confusion,
how
but I don't
to
know
get
if
this guy reduced or no
Eevee's
trial.
gonna be an
To help
Espeon
him
by the
make sure
time
this guy won't have a
Espeon
chance
learns
at a
Confusion.
mistrial. So essentially, he copes by making sure that everyone from the police, to the jailers, to the prosecution team are 100% on the up and
Say
up,
what?
so that when this guy gets found to be guilty, there's no way he'll get set free on a technicality. Not my case, but at a previous firm, a partner sent out a firm-wide email congratulating his team on a great win. It detailed how their win meant that our client, giant fossil fuel company, wasn't liable for damage to the environment caused by leaks in their pipes. Instead, the taxpayers would be covering the cost. The partner went on to say something to the effect of this saves our client $X billion a year in environmental cleanup and pipe maintenance. For some reason, even though it wasn't my case, that one has always stuck with me. Video editor, not a lawyer. I make lots of tapes for lawyers, harsh depositions, evidentiary stuff, getting to the good stuff in a 12-hour surveillance tape. I have even had to pixelate everyone's face but the suspects in hospital surveillance tape due to HIPAA. Sometimes the state will ask me to recover very bad audio from criminal investigations or see if I can see fraudulent editing on a tape, debunk a James O'Keefe copycat. I don't see the whole case and never know the outcomes. I just get a ton of raw input. Video can lie and so can mine.
Wait, really?
I felt bad about was working for the defense in a civil suit. New worker had his legs crushed at a loading dock.
Put him on headphones then.
We get our cameras and are working for the company to show how the loading dock is supposed to be done.
Someone
Their safety
said when your friend talks, the audio for the video gets fucked up.
The old SALT employee. He can't make the safety latches work at 2 of the 3 loading docks. The one that does work doesn't work reliably. It is obvious they never use this stuff. But the video is edited and then it looks like the company and safety equipment are slick and functional, run by the most seasoned pros.
What do you mean let's have a Pokemon battle? We just fucking fought.
Ponzi scheme. My bosses were too dumb to understand the product, which clearly seemed pointless. Clients
Does this sound fine now? I'm just
to
curious.
us, the lawyers, in front of prospective customers. My bosses ignored my repeated exhortations to drop them, but decided to be a little cautious and not publicize arrangement with the client. Soon the scam unraveled and we started getting calls from scammed customers saying that we heard from such and such that we are the lawyer, where the hell is our money? It was finally then that my bosses decided to drop them. Not a specific case, but viewing CP was pretty uncomfortable. As a defense attorney, you would go to the prosecutor's office to view the discovery files as they're prohibited from releasing it outside the office. So you go
hey yo, don't get smart with
in
me.
a small room and a legal secretary.
You hear me? Don't get smart with me.
Files on them. On one case, I had to view the files more than
once. It's because we on stream doesn't mean I won't mess you up.
Hey, need
just kidding.
To see these private parts again. Thanks. Also representing parents in juvenile.
A fucking critical hit. Oh my god.
Return kids to pretty broken homes. Most of the time it didn't bother me, but in one case I represented a dad whose baby mama had just had these adorable twins. These parents were absolute scum.
Oh, come the fuck on.
The foster families are one small step above the parents themselves. Not people I would ever hire to babysit my kids. But in this case, the foster parents were a couple of 30-somethings who I presume couldn't have kids of their own. They would show up to court with the infant twins, and they bought them new dress clothes for each court date. So cute. They wanted to adopt the kids, should the parental rights of the bio parents be terminated, so I felt pretty bad showing up trying to get the kids returned to the dad. I left that job before that case was completed, but I assume it had a happy ending. The judge was never going to return the kids to the parents. So I like to think the couple has them now. One of my coworkers, fellow attorney, was hired by a man in possession of CP to defend him. The guy allegedly used to work for the police and FBI to catch people in possession of CP and trace it back to the source to try to catch the people making it. However,
you have to catch one?
He decided he wanted to keep doing it as a vigilante, allegedly.
You've been killing folk?
No idea if he actually turned anything he found into the police. He got caught when he took his computer in for service at a local shop. We were all had big bad feels about this case, to be honest. We all fully believed his
don't get one.
Add up and thought he was going to jail, but he hired us so we had to throw something at the wall at least.
Yes.
I don't know how the case ended since
unless you want the XP.
The case went to trial.
You should get it for the EXP.
To my stomach every day while I worked on that defense. When I was
my Eevee's level 9.
Back in the 90s, I took a legal receptionist job in a legal defense firm in my little southern town. I would work answering
you want Lillipop?
1 p.m. and then after that I would tag along with one of the lawyers for a few hours.
I mean, are you actually gonna like
do their jobs in court?
Keep it.
Everyone was very nice and did me a huge favor because the experience gave me enough information to learn that being a lawyer wasn't for me. It turns out that I can't handle watching people be crushed by the system. I could handle the murder trials, drug charges and real estate squabbling no problem. It was watching poor people get ground up over minor offenses or simple mistakes, little things that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. One particular case stood out to me. There was shooting and a crowd had gathered around the body. A detective was asking people in the crowd if they'd seen anything. Our
Damn.
defendant said yes. When he
Then
hadn't
again,
seen
it's level
anything
9.
really, but he just wanted to help. He was a simple-minded person, but never formally diagnosed with anything, largely due to the lack of services in my town and the fact that he dropped out of school early. When I met him, it was clear that he was a sweet person who really liked people, but was dealing with a low IQ and some reasoning issues. The detective separated our defendant from the crowd and started questioning him. After a few minutes, it was clear that the defendant was just giving answers that he thought the detective would want to hear. He really wanted to make the detective happy. Instead of just dismissing the guy, the detective arrested him for giving false information. He had a few minor thefts on his record. Again, he had reasoning issues, so he was really
Oh yeah, I
looking at
forgot
serious
about
jail
this.
time because he talked to the police. Again, this dude just liked talking to people and didn't know better. He had no
I don't think we
diagnosis
need
or
the
health records to back up any claim of mental deficiencies, and anything resembling
pan
that
port
would
for
cost
that,
money he didn't
because
have, for
I don't
time
have
in a
my
state mental
actual
facility. He lived with a
starter.
relative who was equally broke. His lawyer was contemplating a guilty plea because he'd lied directly to a police officer and admitted it. I left before the case got resolved, but it's the one I still think about. This guy was largely harmless and was likely going to spend at least some time in serious jail, where the outcome would likely have been very bad for him. The thing that stuck with me was how unnecessary it all was. It was suffering for literally no purpose. Putting him in jail was not going to magically give that guy better cognitive skills other than making him distrust people. In some areas of law, you get a bit of everything. I'm in one of those areas. I do not do family law, but I had one case where an ex-husband and ex-wife were against each other. Both were completely fraudulent. Both were trying to use their young daughter against the other. One was a chronic cheater and opportunist, and the other was constantly high or drunk and constantly trying to access his former wife's financials. She was quite well off when they got together. This was not a divorce case, but due to the nature of the case, all attorneys involved were privy to the entire record of their divorce. I feel like our client edged out our opposition very minutely in being a slightly better person, but it
Another
was a
one.
hollow victory. Thanks for listening to Radio TTS. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell for more videos. Click the right box for the lawyer's playlist. Let us know in the comments what you think about these stories. People will say it's fake. Trust me, there is no one on this earth that wishes more it was fake. Four stories of Reddit nuclear revenge. I've really liked this girl for a while that I met at a lifeguard certification course, and I talked to her while I was there and I thought, ended up hitting it off. We exchanged numbers and social media and all that, and we messaged for a few weeks before I asked her out to a movie, which she accepted. We'd been going on casual dates, nothing too serious, and we weren't hanging out at my place or her place, even though I'd hinted at the idea, for a few weeks before one of her friends, someone that was also at the lifeguarding course that I met and kept in contact with because he was cool, sends me a screenshot. It showed a nude pic and the conversation went like this: "Friend, aren't you and dude going out now?" Her, "Not really, but as long as he keeps paying for everything I'll let him take me out more, girls gotta eat." He said he felt bad for me because I was nice and that she does this often to other dudes. After seeing this, I asked her to go on a nice date with me to a hibachi grill restaurant. $20, $40 plates and premium desserts are served here. I got the most expensive thing they had, and so did she. We both got fancy ice cream
It
and
is
multiple
ruined.
refills on drinks. I complimented her a lot and smiled consistently, before getting up to go to the bathroom and leaving. I was also her ride. About 45 minutes after, I get furious
to get an
text from her
evolution.
saying that she had to have her mom come down and
Okay.
pay for it because she didn't have the money on her and that we were done. I know it's not a lot and it sucks because I thought she was actually into me, but it felt pretty nice leaving her that way. I'm a photographer, and was working with a super sweet couple. Everything was normal up until the cocktail hour. My partner and I were setting stuff up for the reception, and the groom comes up to us and asks the DJ if he can play a video for his wife. We assume it's some cute slideshow or something. Toasts happen, then the video starts to play. Turns out the bride was sleeping with the best man, and the video was from a private
God damn.
investigator. The whole room went silent. Bride runs out, best man goes to follow her, groom's father punches best man out. Everyone else ended up staying and having a great party. Super nice people. I ended up shooting the groom's second wedding. I asked him why we went though with it. Apparently they had a prenup. At the time of divorce, if adultery could be proven, the offending party owed the other $15K. Back when I still was in university, I used to work for a hotel to make ends meet. When I started, the hotel very urgently needed new personnel. So I cut a deal with the old owner about getting to choose and pick shifts, so I could visit my courses and exams. Speaking some extra foreign languages, I also got a little bonus each month on top. The old owner was a great guy. He owned multiple hotels, so I rarely saw him. But when he was in the house, he always made a point to have drinks with the staff, chat with us, and if we were free, he even invited those of the front desk to fancy restaurants who were not on shift. Fast forward. I had worked in the hotel for a few years now and was nearing the completion of my studies. So it wouldn't have been an eternity until I had to quit anyway. As I was of course more interested to work in my field of study. As part of my deal with the old owner, I mostly chose to work night shifts, allowing me to visit my courses at university during the day. To make up for my privileges, I had picked up the habit of doing some extra work in the dead of night other shifts would normally have to do, when I on contrast could have sat around and stared at the walls. People were grateful for the help in the beginning. And we became a rather tight-knit group. But over time people rotated in and out. When the old owner retired and his a-hole of a son took over the business as the new owner, I already feared the worst. The new owner didn't like me very much. I never found out the exact reason for that one. I was at that point nearly the sole veteran left from when I started. Among the tasks I had taken on was doing light clerical tasks to ease the manager's job in the morning. For that, I generally had to use the manager's network account.
Hey Mel, can I call a Pokemon real quick?
My lists, I logged into the manager's
Can I call a
account and emailed
Pokemon?
to do my job. Then I saw an email with my name in the
I want
subject line.
Chandelure.
I know it is not nice to snoop, but of course,
You can have
I did.
Darumaka. I don't want
Turns out
Darumaka.
the new owner wanted to get rid of me. I still
What you
had my old
mean?
employee
I don't want
contract with the
Darumaka. I
bonuses
don't want
for
2
foreign
fire
language
types.
abilities and was allowed by my contract to pick and choose shifts. I can only assume these privileges are what made the new owner hate me. No idea if he had other reasons. Because to be honest, these seem very weak to me. But he
I call
couldn't fire me
Arceus.
without cause.
Just kidding.
On top
I
of
think I have
that,
6.
I would be owed
I think I have
severance if
6 already.
fired. And generally, there were not enough
Wait, you
bodies
call
in
who?
shift rotation without me. Though the new owner didn't seem to understand.
Oh, you
that
can't
point as the
get
emails
that
told
without
me.
a
I looked for more email concerning me and
Oh.
found them. There was an email chain between
There was
some
the
of the
event going on.
employees, the manager,
You can only
and the
get
new owner.
Zoroark and
I
like
was of course not
Black
in the
White
mail
too.
trail as I was the hated topic. The employees didn't like me hogging the night shifts. Because those paid better and for every night you worked you got paid the night bonus. The manager was the only one rather neutral on the matter and just curbed their enthusiasm to get rid of me, as they needed me to be fully staffed. The new owner and my colleagues actively conspired to make a hostile work environment so I would quit of my own volition. I was furious. I thought about a variety of reactions.
So you're gonna that
from running their
Electros
cars to
thing?
burning down the hotel. But I settled on a less crazy method of revenge. I called my uncle at 2 a.m. asking for advice. My uncle is a lawyer. So for sake of proof, I forwarded myself all the emails. I made photos, printed them out, made copies and filmed the whole deal just to be sure. My uncle told me to sit tight and see if things got worse, or if it was just bluster. And so I gave it a few days. And things did take a turn. Snide remarks about my looks.
Gen 5 has a
and
lot of
so on
Pokemon,
were
so
only
like
the tip of the iceberg. Some of the colleagues were just as professional as before. But the conspirators always left extra work for me or a pond of bad duties they normally had to do on me. I always kept a spare shirt and suit at work, just to have a change, which suddenly disappeared. One guy even started to threaten me with violence. But I kept clenching my butt cheeks.
the
I
fuck.
would not give them the satisfaction of saving on the severance or giving in. I am a big boy after all. I did, however, stop doing any extra work I was not obligated to do. Which in the end was the reason they used to fire me. They still had to pay me severance. The next day my uncle, with bundled proof of the email and all documented harassment by my colleagues, served the hotel my lawsuit. It started with wrongful termination and ended with harassment. Reportedly the manager went white as a sheet when he realized where the emails must have come from. The new owner had been on vacation and had to cancel his expensive vacation in France to deal with this. Their counsel advised them to settle. So I accepted my severance and a hefty bonus on top. Enough money to last me until the end of university without work. But that was not all my revenge. I had gone after the new owner's money. But in the next step, I went after the hotel. I had used all the spare time during night shifts alone to document every last violation of city, county, district, state and federal law I could find. that went from minor things like some harmless mold under the kitchen sink to substantial violations like modifications to the building. The building was under a limited form of historical protection by federal law, on the ground of being built and inhabited by somewhat important historical figures a few hundred years back, so every renovation or change in floor plans needs to be signed off on by a committee, which can take ages. There is also a grant paid to the new owner by the government for keeping the building intact as is. So with my uncle's help, I sent documentation of every violation I could find to the corresponding agency. In 1 month everything from health, building code, fire safety to the finance, and work police crawled over the hotel. In the end, it was the building and fire inspectors that shut the place down. The new owner had done substantial renovations to the top floor luxury apartments, which he used when he was in town. So the new owner had to pay back the grant, pay fines for unauthorized alterations to the building, endangering his guests, because something wasn't built right according to fire code, and had to close down shop until the building was fixed. I also tipped off a friend who had studied journalism and worked at a local paper. The paper ran an article on all the violations accumulated, which tanked the business once it had reopened, as the newspaper article had led to horrible reviews. In the end, to afford all the fines, repayments and building costs, the new owner sold the hotel. As the cherry on top, all the a-holes who had tried to harass me out lost their job. Granted, the people who didn't do anything to me lost their jobs too, but didn't do anything to stand up for me or help me either. So I don't feel too much remorse. And the revenge cherry on top was that the new owner, whenever he was in town, used to bring home escorts, which in my country is not illegal. But he was married. It took some doing to get that information to the new owner's wife. But one of my former colleagues, who had quit before this had all happened, had her email.
That was by accident, I swear. I swear it was by accident.
He was out of town. I don't know what exactly happened, but they did divorce in the end. Make of that what you will. I know myself, it sounds completely insane, and a few people will say it's fake. Trust, there is no one on this earth that wishes it was fake, more than me. If I could go back, I would go the neighbors sooner, but my reality is that I caused the death of my mom. I had to mature very early. I became like a surrogate to my sister for those last 3 years. I only wanted him to beat her up, he go to jail, and my mom get help. I never wanted her to die. First, this is a throwaway account. Take this as you will, this is my story of my revenge against my mother and the devil. First, our father passed away 4 years before all this started. Car crash, maybe our lives would have been better, if he hadn't died that day. Also, before I get into this, one thing you should know is, before this man came into our lives, our mother was amazing. She was loving, supportive, and put us above everything. But she would soon replace us with her new man and her new meth habit. When I was around 9 and my little sister 7, our mom started dating this man. Let's call him Pos. Pos was tall and weighed about 250 pounds. He had oily, brown hair and a face filled with sores. I didn't like him from the start. He made me uncomfortable, to say the least. A few months after they started dating, Pos moved into our house. Everything was okay for the first few weeks, I guess. Then my mom started to act funny. Staying up all night, not cooking us lunch or supper, not cleaning, snapping at us for no reason, and started hitting us. Our lives had been turned upside down by this man so quickly. Then one night he came into my bedroom, held me down and did things to me I'd rather not say. I was screaming and crying for my mom, begging her to come help me, to come save me please. And then I seen her, standing in the door watching him do this me. My mom was just letting him do this to me. She was just watching, like she was looking at a TV or something. When he finished, and climbed off of me, he walked up to my mom, kissed her, and walked away with her. My mom just left me, crying and bleeding. I was just broken and she allowed it to happen. Not long after they walked out, I hear them having sex in the living room. It was my 10th birthday. Happy birthday to me. A couple of nights later I hear my little sister crying. I get out of bed to find my mom standing in her doorway. I run to the room to try to help her, and my mom sees me. She backhands me across the face, making me slam against the hallway wall. I can hear my sister crying and begging, with no one coming to help her. That was the day, I started hating my mother. This went on for 3 years. I didn't know at the beginning but soon found out.
The mom hit
my mom using meth. Pos and meth were the only important things in her life. My sister and I were nothing more than his play toys. I soon started noticing them arguing more and more about who got more hits. This one was stashing from the other one, and you smoked the last of it all by yourself. This is when I started planning my revenge. I noticed after about 3 days they would finally pass out and would sleep for almost 2. And their bag of meth would always be on the bedside table, beside Pa's. I know most would ask, why didn't you call the police or child welfare? Because jail wasn't enough. He might has done the most horrible things with us, but she betrayed us. She turned her back on us. And I wanted revenge and wanted her to suffer like we had. So every chance I got I would move the bag, just at first. Make it look tampered with. Then I started taking it from the bag and placing some on my mom's table. These things alone cause a lot of fighting. They started getting physical. I would keep my sister and I out of sight when this went on. And they never lasted long. Well, I continued to do this over a couple of months, taking more and more, flushing it, or dropping it down the sink. Until the last day. The last day I took the whole bag. It was a good amount. They had just re-upped, like they would say. I flushed the whole bag and locked my sister and I in my room, and quietly prayed that they didn't realize it was me. I am not sure how long after I did this that everything started. But we had watched like 3 Disney movies before they finally woke up, and then I heard him start yelling about his missing bag. The yelling got louder and more intense. Then I heard the breaking of objects. It was starting to getting bad now. I hear my mom go from angry to scared. I hear him hitting her begging him to stop, swearing she didn't touch it. He continues to hit and she continues to beg, begging him to stop hurting her, begging someone to come help her, begging like we begged her for so many nights. My sister started asking to leave. She was scared and crying. I opened my window, put my sister outside and followed. We ran to the neighbors and told them that Pos was beating our mom. The neighbor called the police and brought us inside. And we watched as the police pulled up to our house, start to walk up to the door, stopped for a second and then started yelling police, and kicked the door open. After what felt like forever, we see Pos being brought out to the police car. I wait to see my mom follow, but she doesn't. I see an ambulance pull up and the paramedics run in the gurney. A short time later I see them rushing back with my mom. I catch a glimpse of her once beautiful face, now looking like ground meat. Her face was solid red, covered in blood. She ended up dying on the way to the hospital. I never planned to have my mother killed. I just wanted her to feel the pain we had been feeling for these last years. And I guess in the end she did. She felt the pain and terror we felt every night for the last 3 years. She just felt it all in one night. Do I feel bad about what I did? No, I don't. If I didn't do what I did,
I'm gonna definitely teach this to Eevee.
having horrible things happening to us and being beaten.
I'm gonna teach this to Eevee.
Died. Pos was convicted of second-degree murder, possession of drug paraphernalia, I flushed the actual drugs, and 23 counts of aggravated R and 17 counts of aggravated R against a person under 12 years of age. That last one is a death sentence where this all happened. We moved a few states over, to be with our dad's parents. We hadn't seen them in almost 4 years, and for the first time in a long time, we actually felt safe. My sister, still to this day, doesn't know what I did. Doesn't know that I played a big part in our mom's death. And since we never talk about either of them, it never comes up. We are both happily married now. I have 3 children, she has 2. Both of us are active members of our PTA. No one looking at us today would ever guess the hell we went through, or what I did to get us out of it. Thanks for listening to Radio TTS. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell for more revenge videos. Click the right box for the Nuclear Revenge playlist. Share your own revenge stories in the comments below. I get the bonus of having her come over for sex whenever I want. 3 revenge stories of r/nuclear revenge, about a bullied kid taking revenge, an epic divorce, and a scammer that has been played. Starting with the first one, I got back at childhood bullies by destroying an
Hey Brianna, how you
entire
doing?
As a background, I grew up in a conservative little town in a conservative rural area heavily dominated by religion. This makes people put great stock on moral purity and appearances. Keeping up the facade is the most important thing. Everyone must go to church weekly and people are heavily judged for appearing sinful. This was a bad thing for me as the cards were heavily stacked against me.
I'm listening
birth.
to more Reddit
You
videos.
see, I'm a rape baby. My mother lost her parents when she was young and was taken in by her uncle and aunt. The uncle had an important position in the local religious hierarchy. So when he and a couple of his friends started sexually abusing my mom, it was ignored by everyone. When she got pregnant, it was painted at showing that she's a harlot running around seducing married men. She was cast out. Why she didn't move out of town, I don't know.
Oh, you was doing good before you heard what you heard.
Picture, born out of wedlock and with no father, branded as a sinful outcast. My childhood was bad. I don't go into details.
Thank you for coming to the stream.
By the time I started going to school, I was quite damaged.
It's been a while.
Made it worse. I was bullied relentlessly. Teachers were part of it, since they were all part of the religious community, which saw me as stained. Imagine being the only black kid in a town run by KKK and you get close to how it was. So yeah, in school I became the trenchcoat kid or its local cultural equivalent. I became weird and hostile on purpose to turn people off. People were casting me into the mold of being damaged and stained, so yeah, I took it and turned it into something to protect myself with. Despite all this opposition, I managed to graduate with decent grades. A distant aunt, my only decent relative, helped me get into a college in an actual city. She was the black sheep of the family and saw herself in me. Maybe
when does your semester end?
Herself to death. Can't blame her for it. She had a life insurance policy that helped me study. City life liberated me. I went into therapy.
I wasn't paying attention to that. I was looking in the chat.
Into me. I got rid of that town, but I guess some part of it never left me. Years went by. I became a sort of analytical consultant. I worked for an international company that does sort of out-of-the-box analysis for other companies. I won't go into details to protect my identity, but we assist in solving all kinds of situations. Well, in my line of work, I'm sometimes called
May 20th. Okay.
Operations. This
so you like preparing for your finals and stuff?
Who get fired, but if I wouldn't do it, someone else would. A couple of years ago I got an assignment to go into 3 different factories and assess them wholesale, then come with a suggestion on which of them to move abroad. My hometown was among those 3 factories. You see, the town I grew up in was one of those one smokestack towns like we say in my country. There was one factory and some agriculture. Everyone worked in those jobs, like 60% of people in the factory. Rest of the economy
I wish you the best of luck.
Supporting the factory and the people working there. Most of the people were looking forward to nothing but a job at the factory.
Damn, it takes you an hour to get to work and go back.
Running the town
Jesus.
And the factory as well. The big shots in the community tended to be bosses in the factory. This meant that the factory wasn't run that well. Promotions were based on holiness, not on merit or skill. The trip back to the hometown was glorious. Most people didn't recognize me at first. The chubby outcast had become outwards just another corporate drone. I inspected all the paperwork, listened to all their speeches and lies, audited the processes. In the process I dropped hints and
that makes sense.
The factory people
Public transportation is a bitch. Like,
many of my old school buddies were there. We remembered fake
it's like
together. I threw shadow
a lot of it's out of your control. It's like a whole route just gets shut down.
Awkward. Then I laughed at it like it was always a joke and I had grown out of it. Inside I was seething with hatred and enjoying this all. I really loved seeing their faces, seeing what they had become, because F it, I was going to take it all away from them. In the end they seemed relieved, believing that they were lucky it was me doing the odd, that the hometown boy would protect them. After my visit, lasting a couple of days, was over, I cruised around the town in my rented car,
what level are you at?
Just to see how the people lived and to remember what it was like. My state of mind was something close to sexual arousal. I had never understood why people pursue positions of power, but yeah, now I understood. The rest is, as they say, history. I wrote a really scathing report, documenting every little flaw and mistake ever done in the town plant. I didn't need to lie or fabricate. I simply took things that existed and polished them till they looked even worse than they were. The factory was shut down and in the following 3 years, the town died. No business venture ever came to replace
I don't want to be on no bus.
Drug use and alcohol use spiked, as did crime and domestic violence. Lives fell apart. Families fell apart. They still haven't recovered.
Also, public transportation
moved away. I still stalk them on
I don't know. I have a
sometimes,
thing with.
enjoying
I have
how
bad
shitty
experience
their
with
lives
public
are,
transport.
how they all finally got
I
to pay
really-
for what they did to me and my mom. I don't feel a slight bit of remorse. If I could do it all again, I would. Only I'd first make it so I could be
I'm a
present
bit
to
like
watch
public
when they received the
transportation.
news about the factory being shut down. Hell, in my fantasy version of the events, I'd stay in town for a year
What
just to
level are
see
you
everyone
at?
fall apart. In reality, I will only go there back once, when my
rain is only good if you're like
I'm going
inside.
to go and piss on his grave.
And I'll text you the story. I don't want to talk about that story.
To me a few years ago. I told a friend the story of my divorce and I was told to share. Started a few years ago. I thought we were happy. We were your usual suburban professional couple. Financially secure, healthy, good sex life, 2 kids, 14F and 9 meters at the time. I thought we had a healthy social life. We were going through one of your typical married couple rough patches. Both of us were working long hours, not spending enough time together. We were going through some developmental problems with my son and tensions in the house were running a little high. I noticed that she was spending a lot more time on her phone texting with her girlfriends. I didn't think much of it. I started making a much more concerted effort to get out of work when I could, help around the house and be more emotionally available, but over the course of a few weeks the gulf just kept getting wider. I ended up accidentally finding some messages when I charged up an old iPad for my son to use. Her FB Messenger was still logged in and there were a lot of highly questionable messages with a guy from her hometown who I will call Jim Bob Cooter.
These people are really kicking Amuna for some Amundas. This game is actually
quite a few
hilarious.
Based on the times and context of the messages. I made a mental note to keep an eye on this and went
like it squirts out Moondas from his stomach or something.
The next day after I took the day off to knock out some projects that I thought would make her happy, and left her some sweet notes reminding her how much I appreciated her. She was once again
that's also animal cruelty.
Texting her girlfriends. I took the boy's iPad to the office, opened up FB Messenger and watched in real time as my wife tore me down. Her and JBC were making fun of me. All of my flaws, insecurities and secrets I entrusted to my partner were now fodder for her and JBC.
Since your name is Moonay, you should get a Musharna.
There wasn't outright sexting, there was a sexual undertone to the whole conversation, especially when she was bashing my performance in the sack. I managed to take some screenshots, but missed a good bit of the messages, because as the conversation was unfolding she was deleting them. I wasn't emotionally capable of confronting her. I stayed in the office until she was asleep and had a couple drinks. I took off the next day and spent some time soul-searching, drinking and trying to figure out what to do. The wife came home and wanted to know what was wrong and I just coped out and told her I had a bad day. A couple minutes later I was watching the iPad as the train wreck kept unfolding. So began a couple solid weeks of taking screenshots, drinking and detaching myself from the relationship. I knew there was no going back from this. The messages were now overtly sexual with my wife completely into it, and JBC was sprinkling in I love yous. I consulted a lawyer and got my options, and started moving forward. Here's where everything got absolutely surreal. Watching the messages I found out JBC was coming to town to spend a weekend of quality time with my wife in a pretty nice hotel. I was missing a good bit of the info. They must have had a phone conversation about it at some point, but I was able to infer enough to get the when and where. Sure as hell the next day the wife is buttering me up and wanting to take a spa weekend with the girls to relax, and when she gets back we can really focus on our marriage. I go with it all the way. It's the greatest idea she's ever had, and I'll do anything to get us back on track. I get with the lawyer and have him draft a strong separation agreement stating that she would move out, she would get weekend visitation, no child support in the interim until the divorce is final. Then I sit through the most agonizing 2 weeks of my life. After all this, most of my feelings for her are completely gone, and I'm just seething with anger like I've never felt before. D-Day arrives. I take the day off work. I withdraw half of any money in any accounts we are joined on, leave her half alone. I had already redirected my paycheck to a new bank. I close our money market account and get a cashier's check for her half and deposit my half in my new account. I stop at Office Max and print out about 75 pages of Facebook Messenger screenshots, and I kill time because I don't want her to be at home. She texts me that she's taking off and that she loves me. I tell her to have fun. I show up to the hotel at about 8:30 and call the wife's phone from the lobby. It goes straight to VM. They are probably already.
I want return.
I walk up to the front desk and ask if I can use the phone to be connected to JBC's room. It rings 3 times and he picks up. JBC, hello? Me, JBC, can you send my wife down to the lobby please? JBC, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm still playing fuck. I'm still playing XD.
I guess I'll have to.
I'll be playing it tomorrow.
Get her down here. Totally.
I want to like alternate days and play like different games.
But that was it.
Also, I feel like it's more content.
Inaudible, shuffling, panic,
and like different content.
Me, you got 5 minutes. Click. Not even 2 minutes later my wife comes walking out of the elevator looking a little flustered. I sit her down in the corner of the lobby. Her starts spewing BS saying it's not what it seems, etc., etc. Me,
Mel, what'd you say?
I'm not here to argue. The things that are said in this pile of papers are what's going on. The only way I'm not giving a copy of this to our daughter, your parents, and emailing it to everyone we know is if you move out immediately. Wife was
Did you
very
mix
prideful.
Pokemon XD?
Daughter was going through a rebellious teen phase and her knowing probably would have forever killed their relationship. Wife was also her parents' golden child and she always worried about what they thought of her. I didn't have much leverage and shame.
I wanted
a
a change of pace.
Also, her professional life
because I never played a main core Pokemon.
So I knew she would protect that at all costs. Her sniffle, mumble.
I might play Pokemon Sword and Shield after this.
This is a check for half of the money market account. I've withdrawn my half of the money from all the other joint accounts. You should have more than enough to get a place. She starts to cry a little. I could almost see the different thoughts and waves of emotions going through her, but now was the time to keep pressing.
Did you miss Pokemon XD?
Here is a separation agreement that I think is more than fair considering what's going on. I'm going to need you to look this over, sign it, and leave it at the house when you get your stuff. Do you want to look through these screenshots? Her. No. Me. Okay. Go have fun with JBC. Do not come back to the house or I'm going to send this, holds up ream of screenshots, to everyone. I bounce out of the lobby, and I can hear her start to have a breakdown.
Oh, it's a
I get to the
daycare.
car, drive off to a parking lot and have my own crying rage fit. Previously I would have cried in front of her and yelled and whatnot, but I managed to get my stuff together enough to pull it off. I don't know what she did that night or over the weekend. She texted.
Pokemon XD is way easier than
I just turned the
Pokemon Coliseum.
Monday afternoon rolled around.
So I am not getting my ass beat.
The agreement. I let her have a talk with the kiddos, basically saying mommy and daddy need some time apart. We still love you, etc., etc. Standard divorce talk.
Did you continue
After
Pokemon
she
Coliseum
wants
at
to have
all?
a real talk for the first time. I oblige her because I've already got my stuff together and I've got an idea of what I want, but I should hear her out. She's so sorry. She wants another chance. She wants her family back. She'll do anything. She's on her knees crying into my lap. I have no intention of ever taking her back. I tell her she needs to set up marriage counseling on her own at a time that works for me. I tell her that I can't live with her, but she should be around the children to try to maintain a relationship with them. So starts our new normal of her coming over the house, cooking and having dinner with the kids 3 nights a week. She always saved me a plate. I made myself
Oh, that makes
scarce.
sense.
Her cleaning the house and doing the kids' laundry, then heading back to her place. We
I'm
went
hungry
to
though.
counseling. It consisted of her working through her issues with the therapist, trying to figure out why she did it, her begging for forgiveness, and me stoically playing the victim. I was never going to give her another chance. All I wanted to do was kill time, establish myself as the primary caregiver to the kids, and establish her as not having residency in the house. After a few months I go to my own therapist and get diagnosed with depression and PTSD. I ask my work if it's possible to go to part-time for the foreseeable future to deal with personal issues, and it's no big deal. After 6 months of therapy I told her that I couldn't forgive her right now and that I wanted an amicable divorce, but she is still the love of my life and maybe someday we could give it another try. She was devastated, but agreed to the divorce if I promised to try again someday. Once the divorce was filed I needed the kids to want to stay with me. I left a Google search for how to survive your wife's infidelity up on the shared PC at home, and I left some printed out infidelity articles not so hidden in the kitchen. My daughter found them and came to me crying. I told her she wasn't supposed to find those, that mom made a mistake, that mom still loves her, and that I would always be here for her. My daughter
You
had
said
used to
what?
hold my wife in such high regard, now wouldn't talk to her without screaming, and it crushed her. Not surprisingly, when the court needed statements from the kids a few months later, little brother followed big sister's lead and they both wanted to stay with dad in the house they grew up in. When the divorce was finalized I got the house, had to buy out some of her equity, but that's okay. I got primary custody of the kids. I got awarded generous child support due to the difference in our incomes due to me working part-time. Now for the last 2 years I've gotten to live in the house with my kids, work part-time,
It is weird.
get the now ex to subsidize it for me, and when she takes the kids over the weekends I get to have my fun with Tinderellas and some friends with benefits I've cultivated. In the eyes of my kids I'm the
The
patron
commute makes it
saint
just
father
almost
for
a
taking
whole
the high
regular
road
work
and always
day.
being there. In the eyes of my ex I'm the one that got away that she will always pine for, and I get the bonus of having her come over for sex whenever I want it by dangling that carrot of maybe getting back together. But that is never going to happen. pyramid scheme scammer ends up paying in the end. About 6 or 7 years ago, I was trying to enlist into the military. I ended up not joining, but that's a story for another time. At this point, I was led to believe I was about 4 months away from leaving for boot camp. I was running out of savings, and
I'm gonna
needed a
miss
part-time
like
job for some
not
spending
doing
cash while I
homework
waited around.
because I'm
So
gonna
I
be
did
going
my
back to
enterprising
like
20-something
I'm gonna be going to a
year,
community
and searched
college
Craigslist for
in the
jobs.
fall,
I
so
normally
like
hate sales jobs,
I don't have to be doing
especially
homework,
those
and
based on
I don't know if I'm
commissions,
ready.
but figured it would
But
be a great
I
way
do
to
want to go
earn
back
some
to college.
extra cash short term. Found a few job listings that looked promising, and put out some applications. A few days later I received a call from David. He was opening up a new store and needed associates. He liked my resume and asked if I'd be available for an interview on Friday morning. I was very upfront with him, and let him know that the distance was a bit more than I'd normally drive for a retail job, and asked what he was offering for an hourly rate.
That
to
nature
see
is
if it
still
was worth the
bothering.
drive. He told me that they were planning on offering an hourly rate in the mid-teens, along with commission. Seemed like an okay deal, so I agreed to be there Friday at 8 a.m. Friday arrives as a cold rainy day. I wear a nice shirt and tie, and drive in heavy traffic to the address David provided. I knew
I
the
do
area
not, but
from a
I'm
previous
actually
job,
getting
and eventually
onto that
found
like
the strip mall I was
tomorrow,
looking for. However,
like during
I
this
didn't see
weekend.
any signage for the company name that was listed. There is, however, one empty space with no signage and 2 people inside. Okay, maybe they haven't gotten the store set up yet. No big deal. I had arrived early, knowing how bad traffic can be in that area. While
Oh my
in
god,
my
the
car,
frames!
I
Oh
see
my
a young lady in
god.
business casual dress remove a sign from the window stating retail space for rent. Call 1,800 blah blah. Okay, a little weird, but maybe it's the first day in the space. I walk in about 5 minutes early, and immediately my BS meter goes from yellow to the highest level, black watch plaid. The tables are all simple plastic folding tables. The kind college kids would buy for beer pong while on a shopping trip to Target. The walls are plastered with laminated charts featuring tons of dollar signs.
I could just run that
smiley
Pokemon use like
faces,
2
stock
moves.
photos, and an
Oh, he uses
organizational
this.
chart
Never mind.
showing an all too familiar shape. A pyramid. God no. Alright, might as well have fun for a while to wait out traffic going home. The young lady in the dress approaches me, introducing herself as
I
Cindy.
miss the little
She
fires
welcomed me to
everywhere.
company
Like
name,
I
and
was
asked me to
waiting
have a
like
seat.
Wednesday for a new
She
episode,
sat at her desk,
but I just
and I
realized that
requested
that was the last
table,
episode.
and pretended to go through paperwork. However, she was really just shuffling papers around. We get to chatting, and I ask her how long she's worked for David. She says she's been his secretary for about 6 months and that I'm going to love it here. Eventually, a guy walks out of the back office. Early 30s, clean cut, wearing an ill-fitting suit from JCPenney's. As he is walking over, all smiles, Cindy says, "Oh, Dennis. Our newest recruit is here." The guy stops in his tracks and gives her a cold stare. "It's David, Cindy. We've been over
God,
this."
just beat his
He
ass.
turns
What
back
the
to me and
fuck?
gives me his brightest hard to find good help these days smile. David sits me down and welcomes me, saying they are going to start with a group interview and has me sit down in a circle of chairs. Eventually more people come in and sit down. David gets up and begins to thank us all for coming. He tells us about an exciting new
I'm streaming
opportunity from
just
Cutco.
for a little
He
longer.
pulls out a set of
I kind of have to use
knives
the
and
bathroom.
explains how with his company we can make as much money as we want, all
So maybe
while
after
setting
this
our
battle,
own
I'm gonna end
hours. He even pulls out a textbook, saying about how this company's revolutionary tactics have even been featured in college textbooks. He opened to a page, his hand covering parts of it, making sure we can all clearly see the words Cutco in large letters on the page. Sad to say, a lot of the other
Damn.
interviewees were very impressed by this. One pregnant girl seemed very excited that she could work around her pregnancy and upcoming birth. David was going on and on about how much money he's made and how hard workers will rise to the top quickly. At this point, David said he needed to take a quick phone call, and gave us 5 minutes to have
Bye,
some
Brianna.
coffee,
Thank you for coming.
chit-chat, whatever. As he stepped away, he left his college textbook behind. Oops. So I pick it up, find the earmarked page, and read. As I thought, it was all about pyramid schemes and it had Cutco as one of the largest examples. It goes on to talk about how these are essentially scams, not economically viable, etc. etc. So I decide to share this all with the group. I explain how pyramid schemes work, and how he's just scamming us. They seemed incredulous, so I said when David gets back, to ask them about what we need to pay to get started. That finally got everyone to realize what was going on. David walks in a few minutes later, and one of the girls in the group asked David what we need to get started. Well, All you need is your first set of knives to demonstrate. You can sell that on directly or have them order one and keep that as your demo kit. Doesn't matter. Just have to pay the startup fees for it. And that's when all hell broke loose. One kid started to get up and tell him to go F himself, saying he's wasting our time and he's a butthole for trying to pull this crap. The pregnant girl is crying because she thought she found a place that would allow her to work despite being pregnant. David is clearly confused and flustered, and asking who told them all this. When it becomes apparent I'm the wrench in the machine, David gets upset and starts telling me to leave. People are yelling at David, David is yelling at me, Cindy is trying to tell everyone she never met David before today and didn't know what this BS was. Eventually we all walk out leaving David behind. As I'm walking to the door, I see, leaning against the wall, the sign that was in the window before retail space for rent. Call 1-800 blah blah. As I get into my car I dial the number. Eventually I get through to a person, and ask about the property for rent at the location of David's company. The nice lady on the phone apologized, saying they had just leased that property out. I asked if she knew how long the lease was for, as I was